what we had previously broken down when we came in June to 3 different sections. The sections on the first page, or section 1 on the first page, is from the Tamworth line through Pine Knoll Road, and you can kind of see got some thin orange line which begins section 2, and section 2 was broken up into 3 subsections, and that was really for us to try to understand what the extent of the construction was. So 2 is from Pine Knoll Road actually through the second page, and we know it as Cream Brook. It's about 300-400 feet east of Tanglewood Cottages. And then we have section 3, which picks up there, goes onto the third sheet, encompasses from Ledge Pond Road through the 113 intersection up to the Conway town line. So that's what the updates here. And what I wanted to do was really sort of share where we're at. We came and we didn't have enough notification, and we still walked through our presentation on June 5th. I was appreciative of the discussion that we were able to have with some of the property owners that did get notice and come, and the intent was to come back at some point. And I'll be honest, that's sort of on me. We've got, we can always say that we don't have enough resources, but I did want to continue. So we had just brought on our consultant, GM2. Jen Riordan is focused on preparing our National Environmental Policy Act document, which is really that next step that we need to get the federal dollars for final design. So she's been actively, you probably saw her and her team updating all of the wetland delineations throughout the corridor that we really didn't have. They've been doing stream crossing assessments to understand on the larger culverts, anything that was greater than 36-inch underneath New Hampshire 16 or greater. We've got several box culverts in the area just to kind of understand if we're going to do any reconstruct, what the current condition is, and if we need to upgrade them. I just received that. The project, whatever we choose to do, is going to at a minimum widen the shoulders. So we're required to go to Department of Environmental Services and make sure that we meet the alteration of terrain rules, which requires water quality, best management practices, and permits. So they were scoping out different locations that we could do that. So we've got I think we had progressed that environmental portion. We did have a gap in our existing ground survey. We didn't have enough physical topographic survey around where Cream Brook is in Tanglewood. So we have crew, hopefully you probably have seen them collecting some. I believe that actually the ground survey may be complete. We're just processing it. So I think for what I would like to see is the Albany 29597 project. We have all the survey that we need. In addition to that, our safety group had gone through and analyzed the crash data that we had. It doesn't include anything from this year. It includes everything through 2023. They assessed all of the improvements that we had proposed to basically understand would they qualify for the HSIP program. That's a different funding source than what the 10-year plan has allocated for the 29597, which gave us some pretty good, I think the big thing was we were trying to get a handle on what we could do with 113 at the time, and then where we could spend the money, or where we could get additional monies if that was the case. So for section 1 on sheet 1, what you'll find is right now we have a little bit of crash history for crossover and lane departures. There is a warrant that's met for the left turn lane at Nickerson. We had our safety group run that analysis, and outside of that, there isn't a tremendous need that supports using HSIP funds, but outside of putting in rumble strips, which Corey will be coming and discussing that. But what is great is any intersection improvement, which could be a left turn lane for Nickerson, could be supported by the HSIP program. And there's enough support within the department to really spin that off as a separate contract. I believe it's about $800,000 just for the left turn lane, probably a little over $1 million when you factor in kind of the approach work and some of the water quality stuff that we need. So that to me is good news, that that we could do that with that. So I kind of identified that limit of work for a potential future HSIP. I spoke with Corey as the program lead, and we think that depending on how things go, probably target 2030 with those funds if we're successful. The rest of the section 1 through the kind of the orange line at the lower graphic would, you know, at this point we don't have we already have an 11-foot travel lane and 4-foot shoulders, so it's already and we don't have the concrete sidewalk, and we have upgraded the drainage since the 1930s. So I think from that standpoint, there's greater need elsewhere to spend the money, and that's what we'd like to see from the department's perspective. Yes, sir.
We were mentioning before
A subdivision that we had in your top segment on the first section here, right over where that white line, the match line, goes
Correct.
right through that property. That's,
Yes.
just so you'll know where it is on the thing.
And I'm happy to go back and certainly before we come in mid-December to do a formal meeting, I certainly can talk to District 3 to see
Yeah,
where they
well,
are.
just so you know
and
exactly where it's located, it's right there, and it's for future development.
So any questions on section 1? Or I can continue to section 2, but I didn't know if there was any specific. They're compared to the entire corridor, section 1 had less need overall. And, you know, we have limited resources, $9.5 million in the current 10-year plan in today's dollars. So between section 1, 2, and 3, this was the lowest priority of the 3 that we found.
So just to recap, the only thing that you put on is for the left turning lane to HSIP,
3, correct.
and nothing else it doesn't need anything else at this point, or
At-
the funds aren't available.
I would say the need for the funds that we have,
Yeah.
it didn't have, I guess it wasn't the greatest priority.
Yeah.
However, you know, Corey will be here in mid-December as well to talk about what we have as the OSIP Mylan. So systematically across Route 16, the safety section has a program to install rumble strips, and so this section of 16 doesn't have rumble strips, so he can come and talk about installing rumble strips for that. If we were to do a standalone project with $3 to $4 million, we probably only have enough money for rumble strips from Tamworth through Pine Knoll, and then being able to widen the roadway at Nickerson to construct the left turn lane. And we did look at that early on, which is how we were trying to rank which safety improvements that we could do for the corridor.
you could leave out the rumble strips and put the money
Somewhere else if you'd like.
But I think with Corey coming in, it makes my job a little bit easier by just talking about the left turn
Throw
lane.
them to the wall. Throw them to the wall.
I know how I can dodge some hurdles. The second page is really kind of what I'd like to come in December and pitch as the project. It's really where we see the greatest needs. We certainly, from the department's perspective, we have a concrete slab, we have 100-year-old drainage. There is demonstrated need from the crash statistics that we do have. It basically begins from Pine Knoll Road, and I have it in yellow as what I'd like to see the Albany 29597 project.
Actually, it should start just a little bit before.
Or that last turn before you get to Pine Knoll Road.
Yeah,
There's been a lot of incidents there.
Right?
Yeah, it does.
It's
Yeah.
at Blake's Towing is where it.
Yeah, it's before Blake's, it's where Sullivan used to be. That corner there, from there on, should be considered.
It's where, just shy of the campground. It's the.
Yes.
You know where
White
the
Ledge,
National
right,
White
White
Ledge, right, that corner, right at that area there. That's
And
where
there will
you, that's where you should really start that project.
And we certainly can dive into that. Currently, everything that we have done to date, you know, it sort of, we look at it really at like a 10,000, 20,000 foot level to be able to kind of understand what the potential scope is. Certainly when you get into the details, if we wanted to start the construction where the concrete slab, we're gonna need 500, 1,000 feet before that anyway, as far as the approach work and, you know, just for traffic control and construction. So I would see this is the very loose limits at this point, but essentially the scope of the work would be, you know, the reconstruction of 16 and beginning from Pine Knoll so that we could do some limited intersection improvements to improve the geometry, the sight lines that we identified. Certainly, you know, there's a number, the driveway density in this section is a lot greater than in section 1. So this is where, you know, some of the, we've looked at left turn lanes for certain intersections. We've looked at how the left turn lanes kind of between one intersection and the next, how close they are and what makes sense. What we brought forward in June was a two-way left turn lane for most of the section. And there's a couple reasons why we wanted to. One, we wanted to take a look at how the left turn lanes interact with each other. And two, we want to respond to the ask of reducing speeds. You know, we've been, I think, pretty forward about, we feel that we need to construct something that's different for people to change their behavior on speeds. And we feel that if we're not going to look at, you know, larger improvements like roundabouts to physically change, you know, the pattern of behavior, then the two-way left turn lane with possibly some median treatments would be something that would change the character enough that we could then, after construction, we can take a look at the speeds and try to reduce speeds for you. So I don't want to lose too much, but right now for the 29597 in the 10-year plan, we have about $9.5 million, and that essentially takes from the beginning, you know, of the yellow line on the upper graphic through town hall. You can kind of see it continues.
That's the worst section, that whole essence.
Yeah, and that was like the 2A plus 2B that we brought. Since then, we have tier 2 roadway program, and we have support internally within the project manager that maintains that, and as well as our entire roadway system, our pavement management group, and there's $7 million available within that program in 28 and 29, which is about the same time that we want to advertise this project. So that could give us reconstruction through into Madison, just short of like past Bald Hill, I believe, just about the Tanglewood. So it leaves the project about $4 million short. In addition to that, we have dedicated funding through our culvert program for the Madison 44778, which is the Cream Brook, just at the easterly limits. So I think the combination of the need between what the department, this is what I was proposing to the executive office, that everything in yellow should be the 29597. Again, I don't have all the funding in place. That's the next real ask. But we have been progressing, you know, our environmental work to be able to do that project. That's about a $20 million project to advertise.
So short 4 million on that last section.
We're about short 4 million, so we need to do a little bit of homework on our end to see where we could get that. There's a lot of movement right now, and I'm sure Representative McConkey has sort of seen what we've been doing with the statewide transportation improvement plan. It's kind of the next 4 years. There's been a lot of movement and a lot of changes that people will see. So I'm not quite sure when the dust settles where things are. That might leave, you know, a need to spend some additional dollars. So certainly from a planning standpoint, it makes sense for us to continue. And you know, when talking to the assistant commissioner today, this is a reasonable plan right now for where we're at to keep pushing forward and really try to achieve these limits for the 29597 project.
When would you begin the project, actual physical work?
2028 is when it's currently programmed. And I have, right now I have construction funding programmed in 3 separate years.
So much for a 10-year plan.
Yeah.
Why don't they rename it 20-year plan or 25-year plan?
This is where I get to say that's outside my purview.
That's right.
I'm just the messenger.
He's smiling.
Yes. Yeah, I don't have a great answer for that other than I think we've had a lot of momentum over the last couple of years. And
There's always momentum.
No, we got momentum right
There's
here.
always momentum.
Sitting here now, we've got momentum and we're gonna ride it and we're gonna get this done. And we're gonna be happy we got it done in 30 years. I don't care how long, but this is gonna get done.
2028 is, in my opinion, achievable if we complete our NEPA document next year and get approval, and, you know, we'll be working towards a public hearing. If we get those two milestones, now we're in final design, and it's a lot easier road. It's really, we're constrained probably within a year of, that's needed for just achieving the environmental permits, and usually design is about 2 years.
Have you gotten to the point, because people are gonna start asking, are you gonna be looking to take any land along the way?
Yeah, and so that's the next step for us is you know, sorry, I guess the step after we tell everybody what we'd like to do is planning for that public hearing, and we've got impacts associated, but we haven't necessarily said, okay, this is exactly what we need for traffic control and construction. But yes, we will have property impacts. We do have a process for that, and I think that next year, if we can schedule the public hearing and walk through that, that's certainly where we're gonna get into, where people can physically see it and touch it and understand, you know, what those potential impacts are. So before I move on to the last, which I think there's good news on the last page as well, I just wanna make sure I answer any questions relative to segment 2.
I just wanna bring up,
funding.
I just wanna bring up, and I spoke with you already, that we did have concern about construction restraints on businesses. One in particular, which I understand completely, it's a rental cabins, and they have a hardship. And it was expressed to me that you guys try to work around that as best you can, as far as time of year and lane closures and things like that. They were really concerned about just it being a mess out in front of their place all summer.
Understood.
So I think you're gonna need to address that at this meeting that we're gonna have, because I'm sure they're gonna be there and they'll wanna know. And,
Mhm.
and I don't blame them, I mean, that's their livelihood, that's what they do. That's also where the accident was, so they do have some reasons. But that's a concern I've heard.
Yeah, and we certainly, we hear that, and there's no exception here. I think in the standard response that I have is our construction specifications do have measures for contractors to make sure that they maintain access for all the driveways. We do have, dust control as part of our contracts. And then I think what we can do, and this is the great thing about our process, in my opinion, is the earlier that we know, the better we can plan. And so we can start to think about how traffic control and shifting of traffic affects those time of year restrictions. Certainly not anything that's new to our contracts. We have that elsewhere. So I think that there's measures that we can put in place, and the best thing that we can do is have those conversations at the meeting in December, and certainly if there's really great concerns, as we're planning for the public hearing, we can certainly meet with individual property owners and business owners. That's not unheard of either. We do that on a number of projects.
That's more than we can ask, that's great.
It still may create some problems in construction, and we can't necessarily get away from that, but we can certainly make sure that our contract administrator, and we got a great one, he's from the area, and Jim Bowles, that as the district construction engineer, I'm sure he's gonna have some really good thoughts of how we can put this together.
I'm gonna put the bright side of the whole thing, it's gonna slow the traffic down. Right? So we'll get us a summer of ease, summer of peace, and the Jake breaks.
What's the scope if they were to do 2A, 2B, 2C, time-wise?
It's a great question. I have not thought through that. I'll be honest. 2 to 3 years would be a typical response. A couple construction seasons for most of it, and probably some follow-up. I think fortunately you got some great people in town that probably can help you out with that.
Yes, that's what we'll hope on.
I don't know, you tell me, am I that far off?
No, you have to get close.
Any other questions or thoughts on page 2? Okay, flip the page. And again, on page 2, that was where we felt the greatest need from the data that we had, as well as those initial meetings, the survey responses.
That would be the prime area.
We know that you know, all the traffic goes through the center of Albany, and that's the section that everybody's concerned with. So I think there's a lot of things that we can take a look at, and we've already evaluated at a certain level, but there's slight geometric improvements, there's the left turn lanes, there's the shoulder width, so we'll take a look at, as we're, over the next year, as we're getting ready for the public hearing, we're gonna have better information that we can have those specific conversations with the butters. So the last page is section 3, just east of Tanglewood, Creambrook, and it continues through the New Hampshire 113. And of course, we did hear a lot of concern about the 113 intersection and the Wildwood intersection, and we understand a lot of the issues. I think we thought that we could achieve greater value and a longer stretch of New Hampshire 16 by focusing the money on 16. In section 2, what section 2 also afforded us was to be able to leverage some additional programs that are not available for the 113. And so we had really, I think collectively between the town, North Country Council, I think we put a good plan together. I think people were aware of kind of the limitations. We explored the HSIP, program initially, and it did, I think, from a benefit cost, I can't speak to the numbers, I think it was really close. I'm not sure with all the improvements to 116, because just this, potentially on whatever you do, you could have a lot of roadway construction that offsets the value of the intersection improvements where the HSIP. So I know North Country Council and the town and the TAC recently, supported that as the #1 priority project in the next 10-year plan, which is fantastic. So it kind of identified the limits that we saw from North Country's engineering study. We were able to take a look at it. We gave some feedback to Nick Altenuga, and so I'm really happy that we can go to the next meeting with the report from North Country Council, that it's not just a hope that something can happen, it's actually supportive, and based on what I've talked to with our Director of Project Development, Bill Oldenburg, that it looks like there's enough money for that within the allocation that North Country Council has, in addition to whatever other projects that they submitted. So I think between the different needs, we ranked section 2 is the highest from our data, section 3, and I think we can again go to the next public meeting where there's actually a plan, it's rolling. Now with a 10-year plan process, anything that goes into the plan, the construction dollars are at the end of the 10 years, so that would be 2036. However, there will be a lot of construction on the corridor, so I think that is a bigger step that we would need to take. Let's get our federal approvals for the 29597, and then that way we can continue that. One of the things I did see was the way the application went in is supplemental funding for the 113 intersection to the 29597, and my advisement to Bill Oldenburg is I'd like to keep those separate because we've got momentum on the 29597. I'm close to NEPA. I do not want to go backwards to study alternatives and impacts for 113 to delay the 29597 project. So that was my ask of the project review committee when it goes through, is really like to keep that. I think we've got the staffing and the resources to get through the hearing. We certainly got some time there to help bring on some consultant resources to get that into final design, and then let us study this section a little bit different, and then we can stagger the projects. Thinking about also the HSIP, so we can put the engineering dollars and the right-of-way dollars in different years for now, and then depending on how the 10-year plan, there's always a lot of movement in the 10-year plan. So I think that would be my ask of the town, North Country Council, and all the players that keep these two separate. And
that was our intention.
Okay.
That was the smartest move. hopefully we can get a push on that, so it's not 10 years, right? But we'll see what we can do with that. We'll keep squeaking along.
Mhm.
But we appreciate all of this. This is exactly what we thought. I'll say, I drove the full length of our Route 16, and I hate to see our little back road go, but it can't sustain the traffic that it carries. It can't, it's just not gonna, it's not feasible, and we can't stop the traffic. So, this is a necessity. And I think everyone feels the same way. It's gonna be a hiccup, I understand that, people are gonna have to be a little tolerant, but the final result is what we need.
Well, I mean, Concord's gotta understand that, you know, they make all their money on, you know, the outdoor activities up here,
Oh, yeah.
okay? But they don't do anything for us.
Well, no.
You know, we have traffic problems, we got road problems, you know?
Look, we're fixing it.
Well, pictures are one thing. When are they
We're
gonna
doing it,
start?
man, we're doing it.
Hey, I walked the whole length of 16 with Cass one day. I think you were there that day. All the way from Route 13, all the way to the Tamworth line. And we're gonna look into it and never heard from them. We call them and never took our phone calls.
If I could, the energy is here, as
Right.
DOT's saying. And I pride myself that we started in Wakefield and we're coming forward. You're next. The energy is just to keep sweeping forward.
Yeah.
And sooner than later, I'm a business owner that lost money when bridges were put on my end of town. But I've made more money because it's a better flow of traffic, so. It's an inconvenience. I've been disturbed on some of years past, what DOT had done for businesses in making notices, and we're still open, everything else. They've made great strides, great strides. So it's like Kelly says, you know, it's gonna take some years, but it's flowing, it's coming to you. And as long as I'm there, it's just gonna keep coming this way, so.
I appreciate that. We're gonna get this done. All right, I don't have any questions. Jim?
No?
What can we
Thank
get
you.
Joe Kenny to do for us? Anything?
Show up.
Joe,
I'm gonna get on his case.
yeah, I spoke to Joe last night for an hour plus. And I'm remiss for not saying I'm gonna see you tomorrow, because we're seeing each other on Thursday for the rail project down in Ospey. But his schedule is, I know it got missed. I know there's no need. But, you know, Joe is extremely important because he's the one that's gonna start the 10-year plan over again. And you don't wanna admonish the man, you want his help.
No,
I'll speak to him on Thursday when I'm down there. We have conversations every 3 days now, so.
No, that's what I've been telling Kelly, that we need to get Joe involved
Yeah.
in this.
Oh, yeah, no,
I
Well, hey.
mean, he's got the ear of the governor too.
All hands on deck.
Yeah, I think next year is a really big year for the 10-year plan. Councilor Kenny is gonna be setting up all the meetings. I think that if you're looking for shifts in the 10-year plan, that's where you're gonna advocate for those projects. So keeping him as a friend is pretty important.
Well,
And
the other
and,
thing too, if you have meetings and stuff with regards to all this, would it be prudent for someone from Albany to be at some of those meetings?
well, not you two, maybe James. I'm
Okay,
just kidding.
I know.
He's not Joe.
I know he's not joking.
No, when you told me North Country was stepping up to the plate and making this project #1, I can't tell you how ecstatic I was, because I've always felt, being on the lower end, that maybe that wasn't the right match for a planning commission, but this is absolutely tremendous what they've done, and that will help Joe and myself and others. I still have a strong influence on Public Works and Highways, and it looks like I'll be on transportation, so we'll just keep it going.
We've established quite a relationship with North Country Council.
No, I'm very excited about what they've done.
And we give them kudos when they deserve it, and it goes a long way with them too, so.
Well, they were a big influence on the broadband side as well.
Yeah.
So tentatively, December 18th, if you nail
Sounds
that
great.
down, we'll put some signage in here, and, because a lot of people come in the register,
Mhm.
and when they come in the register, the vehicles, it'll be right in their face, so
Okay.
we can get a lot done that way.
Mhm.
And however we can post.
And you're doing newspaper, or what else do you?
We'll do newspaper, our website, we'll send out letters, and then I'll still use the US Postal Service again as backup, but I'll make sure that everybody on both section 1, section 2, section 3 gets a letter from us.
Majority of Albany uses the post office, so there's no mailboxes. I use the post office, I didn't get anything because it probably went to my physical address.
I think the rural route for 16 and the PO box for some reason didn't get delivered. I'd sent out postcards to the 2 Madison routes, and then there was 4 for Albany, and it sounded like at least 2 were received. 2 of the routes in Albany were received.
Are you
Not the
including,
important one.
are you including Madison in mailing, or
I did before,
are you
yeah.
doing that again this time?
I will, because the project will extend
Yeah.
to Madison.
Yeah.
Yep. I think it's fair.
Right.
It will have a couple changes. It sounded like when I was talking to Nick Altenuga through NCC, it'll be an Albany-Madison project now. Moving forward, assuming that we get all our approvals. Like, I need to go to our executive office in a couple weeks and I'll get that. And but it sounds, in my conversations over the last couple of days, they understand it's pretty important. And we've lined it up. We're potentially gonna bring up to $20 million to the town for 28 to 30s, which is not what you had before.
No. No. All good news.
So I believe I got a couple extra copies
Sure.
here. If you do happen to talk to Counselor Penny, you're welcome to give that to him or just have it for your staff.
You gonna see Joe Penny?
Yeah, I'm gonna see
Why
him
don't you
Thursday
take
morning, so.
an extra one of these and make sure Joe gets it? I mean, I talked to him on the phone
Yeah.
and gave him a brief description of what we were looking to accomplish here. so.
Absolutely.
And I told him he needs to be part of this.
Copy of the sheriff's report, highlighted all 16 incidents,
Okay.
traffic stops and accidents, because it shows that people get stopped, they're just speeding.
Because it crashes and,
Crashes and, I think it's fairly current, maybe up to the last 2 weeks.
okay.
And like I said, state police, you're gonna have to, because we didn't have any luck there.
Understood. I appreciate it.
Yeah. Just more ammunition, people asking, you do have all the facts. Other than that, I appreciate you coming down. I
Absolutely.
mean, I'll tell you, I didn't invite you, you said you were coming, and that was great. I mean, you said.
Well,
I'd
you
be
asked,
there. No,
so.
well, I knew you were on vacation, and I said, and I said, well, it'd be good if you did, and you jumped, so we
Yeah.
appreciate that.
Yeah, thank you.
Yeah. And you
See,
came.
we were just gonna hold his feet and Joe's feet to the fire.
It's easier
And
if
Joe
I
got
just-
scared and didn't come.
It's easier if I show up rather than Mr. McConkey dragging me up.
That's right, that's right. Let's do some great things.
Excellent.
All right.
Do you have any questions, sir? Okay. Great.
Very happy with what you've done.
Okay. All right, so we'll see you in about 3 weeks, 4 weeks.
Communicate through the office with
We'll do.
Elisa and bless you.
Thank
And
you.
she'll,
I think that's the night of their annual Christmas party, so there'll be treats and things here.
no, we canceled that long ago. We're about the Grinches here. Yeah. No, Santa retired and moved away.
Yeah.
He was the last Santa we had. And that was the guy that started this with the Rumbles, it was Jack Rose. He used to be Santa Claus back in the day. Rumble Stiff Rose, we call him. Okay, we have a non-public we're gonna go into. So you guys can sit
Yep.
down, we appreciate it.
Thank you very much.
Thank you very much.
Nice to see you.
Nice to meet you.
Nice to meet you.
Nice to meet you.
Valley,
Thank you.
Thank
Mark, thank you.
yourselves.
Thank
Thank
John.
you,
Good to
nice to
see
meet
you.
you, thanks for
Good to see
coming.
you, thank you. Lisa, congrats
Nice to
again.
meet you,
Nice to meet
thank you.
Okay. We're going to enter into a non-public session of the RSA 91-A:3(2), to discuss the promotion or compensation of a public employee. We are also going to discuss in the non-public under RSA 91A:3(2), to discuss a matter which, if discussed in public, may adversely affect the reputation of a person or other than a member of the body or agency. I'm going to take a roll call vote to enter into this. And how do you vote, Rick?
Aye.
Jim?
Aye.
Kelly? Aye. We're going to close out. You can cut. Thank you very much.
She's gonna need to be here afterwards.